Good morning, everybody. Jim Fleiss and Hank Goldberg from Las Vegas. It's 50 degrees outside, Hank. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about 100-degree weather. It's really amazing change. A lot of great games yesterday. Dallas found an offense. Last night's game between New England and Kansas City, 83 points. Unbelievable. It was a great day to watch football and baseball.
That game last night was terrific. That quarterback for Kansas City, they can stop saying, well, he hasn't arrived yet. He did everything. Nobody has ever thrown for 4 touchdowns against the Belichick coach team. Last night was the first time that's ever happened. And he brought his team back into that game when it looked like, the New England's going to run away with it. And he did everything he needed to do in the second half. They've got so much speed. My tipster was right. They had too much speed for New England. But, their defense just couldn't stop the Patriots' running game. And, Brady did what he had to do, of course. But they're an even match. And I'll tell you something. Kansas City only needs to get 2 or 3 guys back who are on the injured list, and they can beat the Patriots.
That is definitely the case. I think those two teams will meet up down the road. You're talking about AFC teams. I think, we talked about early in the season, I don't think everybody was as high on the Chargers, but they're starting to play pretty good ball. Now, granted, the last 2 weeks they only played Oakland and Cleveland, but they're starting to really put it together. And if Bosa comes back as he's supposed to, that's going to be a heck of a team.
You're okay. I'm not convinced that Rivers can get it done. He went up against, you remember Cleveland, everybody was buying the Kool-Aid with Cleveland. The rookie quarterback played like a rookie yesterday. The experience of the Chargers held up against them. I'm not convinced about the Chargers, and I'm not giving up on that.
Well, we're a few weeks into the season. We got 65% of the season to go. We've got a game tonight, San Francisco at Green Bay. The weather looks pretty good there. And we've got a lot of good games coming up next week. We got the baseball games going on. Good matchup for the Dodgers and Milwaukee. I'm very critical of the Milwaukee manager. I don't think you feel exactly the same as I do about that, but
to me, you're looking at a guy who, whose team won 11 straight games at the end of the season to get him into this position, and he's 1-1 in the series, and you're going to criticize him?
Damn right I am. Yes. I mean, he had a 6-1 lead in the first game. He mismanaged his bullpen, and then he has the lead in the second game. Miley's pitching lights out. And he's go 5 2/3 innings, gives up the hit. He pulls him out, and he goes to his bullpen again. And he knew he didn't have Hader. He knew he couldn't bring who's the best reliever he has. I mean, one of the best in the business. So he should have tried to get another inning or inning and a half out of Miley, who was absolutely dynamite at that point. So I think he's mismanaged both games. He won the first one, lost the second one. But, there's a difference level between playing regular season games and playoff games. It's a whole different ball game. And we've seen it many times before. In my opinion, he's made 2 mistakes. He got away with one. And now we're going to see what he does. That's just my opinion. Anyway.
I think his job's secure.
Well, I don't doubt that. He's a young guy, and he's going to learn his ropes. I mean, we talked about a couple of weeks ago about the Yankee manager, Aaron Boone, and we disagreed on that subject where he had Severino, he stayed with him too long. He had Sabathia, he stayed with him too long. And after the series was over, he came out and he said, I agree. I should have pulled them when they were tired. They weren't sharp. I stayed with them too long, and it cost us. So it comes right down to it. You know, it's tough to make those kind of decisions. But again, what you're dealing with is dealing with two inexperienced managers.
Let me tell you something. Let me stop you right there, okay? When your slugger, who you're paying $8 gazillion to, it just folds totally in that series, comes up with men on base and keeps striking out and failing to deliver, there ain't much you can do about it when you're playing the Red Sox.
Well, we're talking about two different things. I agree with your point there, 100%. I have a point as well. I was talking about the pitching. I wasn't talking about Stanton. He's very overpaid. I agree with you there, definitely. Onward and upward. Where do we go next here? We got some football games, baseball games. We got the NBA starting this week. In a couple of weeks, we'll have college basketball going. So a lot of good things, a lot of good stuff going on in college football as well. So it's a great time. We don't have to agree on everything. Matter of fact, we don't have to agree on anything. we have two different opinions. We look at things differently. But it was
well, you know something. Booney did a hell of a job this year. He had a lot of injuries to his pitching staff. Truth be told, he had an aging pitching staff, and he had some guys who just weren't that great. And those are things that the front office is going to have to deliver for him for next year. But the Yankees thought that they could win, you know, with the home run, which was how they were winning all year. And then the one guy didn't deliver, and the other guy was coming off the bench from an injury. So, and, you know, they had a lot of guys were playing hurt in the playoff series, and the Red Sox have too much for them right now. That's the bottom line. Well,
the Red Sox are an excellent baseball team. This is a great series between the Red Sox and the Astros. These are two quality baseball teams, and it's totally a toss-up. I mean, that's going to be a hell of a series.
You know, back to the NFL. The Jacksonville coach stood up yesterday and said that it starts with him. He'll take the rap. That's baloney. You know, he's covering up for his players. His players aren't performing. Bortles has become the old Bortles. He can't. The defense is crumbling because the offense can't produce any scores. There's too much pressure on that defense right now, and the bottom line is that defense right now is missing a couple of guys. And you know, Dallas didn't have a touchdown the week before last, and they come out there and they play like they did against the team that was supposed to be the number one defense in the league. They've got problems with Jacksonville. All they wanted to do was beat the Giants for their top guy, Coughlin. Well, they beat the Giants. Now you can look at it and say, so what? The Giants are in big trouble. You know, you look at that division, and you know something? You look at Washington. Washington really stunk it up last week, and then they come back and play a game like they did yesterday against Carolina. And, you know, Carolina almost came back. They put up a heck of a finish, but it wasn't enough. You know, you look at Tampa Bay. Their game ended on the 5-yard line. They were about to pull that game out against Atlanta. I think Atlanta's got big trouble. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, they'll be all right." They're not going to be all right as long as they got 4 or 5 starters out on their defense. They can't stop anybody. Probably the best bet of the week was the over in that game. But you know, Winston came back and played pretty well for Tampa Bay. He almost pulled the game out for them. But their defense is dreadful. They're giving up, you know, 40 points a game. And you can't win with that kind of defense. So I think that what's going to happen there is that New Orleans is going to sail through that division where it looked like it was going to be a close race.
Well, I'm not too sure that you can count the Carolina Panthers out. I know they played a bad first half yesterday, but they had been playing pretty well going into that. But they came off the bye and they just came out sluggish, down 17-0 at half. But they played very well trying to come back. But they have a big game this week. They're going to Philadelphia to play a rejuvenated Philadelphia team that look. Of course, the problem is they played the Giants, so everybody looks good playing the Giants, I guess. But you talk about the Giants. Everybody talks about the Giants being one of the biggest disappointments. But we also watched yesterday Seattle demolish the Raiders.
Well, I told you that was going to happen, and I told you why it was going to happen. And for all the money they're paying Gruden, he's made every mistake you can make. Although I don't know what happened, by the way, to his all-star linebacker who didn't show up in Miami unless he showed up and went to South Beach. He was invisible. The Bears did not have a sack yesterday against Miami, and they did not get a turnover against Osweiler. Come on. I mean, they just didn't play on defense, and their defense is supposed to be the strength of that team. They did nothing, and their star, who had been averaging one forced fumble and one sack per game, did nothing yesterday. In fact, he was gassed. He was on the bench in the overtime.
Well,
he was not in the game.
The one thing about, I know you lived there, so you know this as well as anybody. It was hot there. It was 100 degrees.
Yep.
And some people just don't react well to that, especially when it's humid. Humidity can really drain your energy. He's just maybe one of those guys that just can't tolerate that or wasn't prepared for it physically. But it can really drain you.
There are ways to overcome that. The smart coaches go in a couple of days early to get their guys a little bit used to it. And speaking of that, when you're playing a game in England, you don't take the red eye on Thursday night and get your team there Friday morning so that on Sunday morning you're playing at the equivalent of about 8 a.m. or whatever time it is in California. And that's what he did. They had no time to get used to the time change there, and they were tired when they got there from flying all night to get there, and all they did was have a walkthrough where Seattle got there early in the week, and they were ready to play that game. I thought that was the bet of the century, playing Seattle against Oakland, because I knew that they were not ready to. They could not possibly be awake to play that game.
Well,
I said this on my show Sunday morning. I said the Raiders are going to be sleepwalking through that game. There's no way they can possibly be. I've made that trip with football teams, and I know that it's a big advantage to the team that gets there earliest. And Gruden, so far, has not coached that team very well, frankly.
Well, he's made a lot of mistakes, but on the podcast on Friday, you pointed that out, that Seattle was going to be in a much better position because they went in early, and you were 100% right. You and I both had Seattle as a big play, and it worked out exactly that way. But Gruden has made a ton of mistakes, and I know that when they signed him as a head coach, a lot of people criticized that, a guy who was away from the game for 10 years, and paid him all that money. And boy, I tell you, it's been a mess since he's got there.
Well, the coach's job is basically putting your team in the best position to win. He put them in the best position to lose that game. And now everybody in Las Vegas the first thing they want to know is, well, how are the Raiders doing today? Well, they stink.
Yeah.
And by the way, being unprepared, not ready to play, and sleepwalking through a game results in injuries. And now the quarterback is hurt, and their top receiver is hurt, and that means that they're going to go further downhill as the season progresses.
Well, we won't be able.
This season is a throwaway.
Oh, it definitely is. We won't be able to pick on them this week. They have a bye, but I don't know. They're talking about trading Amari Cooper away. You know, the quarterback is hurt. They got rid of Khalil Mack before the season started. I don't know that Gruden could make any more mistakes than he's had. He's done so far.
Speaking of coaches, the Dolphin coach, Gase, gets up before the media, and they're asking, and the quarterback is hurt again this year. And it was a very odd situation with Tannehill in that he didn't show up on the injury report until Friday when he became questionable with a shoulder injury. He had a shoulder injury all week. The Dolphins never said anything about it. So the Bears are preparing for Tannehill all week. And then suddenly on Saturday, they're saying that Tannehill is a game-time decision. So the Bears have to throw all their preparation out the door and face Osweiler, who's a totally different kind of quarterback. There should be a fine for that. So after the game, Gase gets up before the media, and they're asking, well, when is Tannehill going to be ready? Yeah, and he gets snippy with him and says, I didn't talk to him. I don't know. That's between him and the doctors. And, and he's going on and on. Well, Osweiler can't throw the ball accurately more than 5 yards. Not only that, but he has no mobility to speak of. He's a totally different kind of guy, and he's been terrible every place he's been. And, one of the problems the Bears had with their defense was they were facing a quarterback they were totally unprepared to play, who, by the way, is 3-0 against the Bears. They're the only team on earth that he's able to beat. But still, they covered up the injury to Tannehill until the very last minute. You're not allowed to do that.
Well, I agree with you.
And by the way, the spread went from 3.5 to 7.
I know, it was really amazing. The spread on that game just flew. It was watching it on the screen was amazing. Everybody just went flying up on that game. Of course, I guess.
And then he gets snippy with the press for asking him about Tannehill. I think the guy's a jerk.
Hank, we go back a couple of years, and you've never really cared for him as a coach.
Well, he throws everybody under the bus when things go bad. Right now, he's 4-2, and he's coming off a 2-game losing streak, and I don't think they're a very good team. They play Detroit next week. Let's see what happens there.
Yeah, there's no line on that game because of the injury situation, quarterback situation. So. Either Detroit's going to come in there rested. That's going to be a difficult game for Miami, I believe. Although, if it's really hot, then you have that issue. You have a northern team going down to Miami, so you really need to watch the weather in these cities where it's very hot, or where there's really bad weather. The Rams, they went to a city that was cold. They did get rid of the snow. The snow was there early, but it got rid of it, and. They're still undefeated. They still look good.
They didn't cover. They had a nice lead, but they did what they had to do to win. So, and it was Gurley who really carried them.
He played great. I mean, they had 2 tough games back to back. They had to go to Seattle. They won that game. They went to Denver, won that game. That's not an easy trip. Back to back tough cities to play in. But they're looking very strong. Right now in the NFC, it's hard to imagine anybody's better than the Saints or the Rams at this point.
I guess not.
But of course, you don't know what's going to happen with Philadelphia. They still have a lot of great teams, but their running back situation is harmful. But like I said, they played a good game against the Giants, but the Giants are the Giants, and we don't know what the hell they're going to do next. Anyway, Hank, anything you want to cover before we sign off?
No, not really. That was a good fight Saturday. That guy's really good, Garber. But it was an interesting fight to watch. I enjoyed it. Breeders' Cup, by the way, I gave out the misinformation. It's 2 weeks from this Saturday. So,
okay. I always look forward to your picks in the Breeders' Cup. You always do really well in these big races. So that's some people out there should check out jimfeist.com for Hank's picks and horses. And
how about one thing we left out was Baltimore with the 11 sacks, and they're resilient. You know, they came back after a bad game last week, and Mariota's having a tough time right now. He only had 129 yards at Buffalo, and he got sacked 11 times this week. Baltimore's defense is very good, and you know, they did what they had to do offensively. And I'll tell you, Baltimore is going to be there at the finish. But I'll tell you, Pittsburgh was impressive against Cincinnati. You know, Roethlisberger just outplayed or outscored Dalton, and that's the way it goes with Pittsburgh right now. They just are outscoring the opposition. Roethlisberger is playing very well right now. And by the way, you know something, they're doing fine without the running back.
yeah, what are they going to do now? He's supposed to come back. And now they're going to have. I mean, the other guy is doing extremely well, and that's a tough coaching decision to make there.
I'll tell you what's good about Seattle right now is that they found a running game.
Yeah, they have.
And that's going to help them.
Yeah, because Russell Wilson is a good field general. He gets a lot done. Yeah, it's the last 2 weeks they played very tough. They played the Rams tough, and then of course they demolished Oakland yesterday. But he's talking about
the 2 previous weeks they had 190 and 170 yards rushing. They've got 2 good running backs right now.
Right, they do. Carson and Davis. Next week there's a big game. The Saints against the Ravens. Right now the Ravens are home. They're the home team. They're 2.5-point favorite. The total is 49.5 or 50. That's going to be a hell of a game. 2 of the best teams in football matching up right there. Well, Hank, thank you very much for today, and everybody out there, thanks for tuning in and listening. Go to jimfeist.com for Hank's plays today, tomorrow. We got the NBA starting tomorrow as well. So thank Hank. Talk to you soon.
We got a lot of work to do, pal.
Oh yeah, there's too many sports going on at one time.
All right.
Take care.